Hello everyone. Odds are most of you watching this video are familiar with the issue of cancel culture. It's the tactic of using damaging information about someone, be it accurate or not, to try destroying their public image and thus their career. Targets of cancel culture have included directors, actors, comedians, YouTubers, and even people just trying to raise money for sick children. But for some, canceling individual people doesn't go far enough. Some also want to cancel parts of language. Like NowThis, who made a video recently about how saying, "Hey guys" to refer to women is problematic. But before we dive into their video, I want to give a thank you to my sponsors helping keep me from being cancelled, and that's Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a brand new and free-to-play collection RPG game that is taking the mobile gaming landscape by storm. It has over 400 champions to collect from 16 different factions, which you can then use to raid with friends in a clan, defeat giant bosses, or fight in the PvP arena. There's even the highly anticipated new Faction Wars feature, which is now live. And if you're a new player, you can get a new daily login reward for the first 90 days in the game. But my favorite part about Raid is the level of customization you have with your champions, choosing their artifacts and creating a unique build for each of them. The game is growing super fast and has been downloaded by over 10 million players in under 6 months. And with over 300,000 reviews, Raid has almost a perfect score on the Play Store. So if you want to help support my channel, go to the video description, click on these special links, and you will get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. But with all of that being said, on to the video.
Hey guys, welcome back to NowThis. Guys is a simple term. It could mean boys, or if you're modern, hip, it means people.
Okay, so right off the bat, you admit that in a modern context, guys can just mean people. So what's the problem?
But it, like many male default terms, should not be normalized as an all-encompassing phrase, innocent as it may seem. While we may understand the word means no real harm, with a deeper look, you'll understand that we've been ignoring the cognitive impact on women as well as gender non-conforming folks by only explicitly addressing the male-identifying individuals present.
Feluca, did you forget what you said only a few moments ago? You already admitted that in modern usage, guys can just mean people. It has a gender-neutral meaning.
Or if you're modern, hip, it means people.
So how can you follow that up by saying the word only addresses men when we've already established that isn't true? Remember, this video is talking specifically about the word guys, and she's arguing that this word has a cognitive impact on women. So will she provide any scientific literature to back up this claim? Let's find out.
The meaning of guys has changed over time. According to the Washington Post, etymologists believe it began in the 17th century with a guy named Guy Fawkes, a participant in the failed 1605 gunpowder plot. For the next few centuries, those who likened him in fashion, appearance, or intellect were referred to as guys. The term broadened to describe creepy people, then to a generic term for men, and now, some would say, a gender-neutral phrase.
Some would say? It's not like this is some fringe definition. It can be found in plenty of popular dictionaries. But, yet again, you've admitted the word has a gender-neutral meaning, so, again, what is the issue?
For decades, we have set a standard of only addressing the men in the room. Of course, we claim it's colloquial, but with our elevated knowledge and inclusive perspective, it just seems lazy, inconsiderate, and a small part of what reinforces the gender hierarchy today.
Who does it seem lazy to? Certainly not your viewers who have mocked every upload of your video. You were ratioed on Twitter, laughed into oblivion on Facebook, and on YouTube, your ratings were disabled. That's always a good sign. If anything, it's more lazy to restrict a word to only having one meaning rather than allow it to develop and diversify. If anything, it's more inconsiderate to expect everyone to abandon a word just because you happen to have an issue with it. Words are not limited to one meaning, so when we're using a word in a particular context, whatever other meanings it may have in a different context are not relevant. For example, gay used to mean joyful, and queer meant odd, but they've both gradually evolved into LGBT terminology. So are you going to call the LGBT movement lazy for using terms that once had different meanings? No, of course not. So what is it about the word guys in particular that bothers you so much?
How is one to feel empowered to speak or assert themselves when upon greeting they're misgendered or even ignored in language? It means people, a gender-neutral phrase. Can we be surprised that for decades women often felt uncomfortable asserting their voice when we didn't even take the time to properly acknowledge them?
Oh, so you have no modern day evidence of this word being harmful. You have to go back to before we went to the moon. Again, the same argument could be applied to words like queer because it used to mainly be a derogatory term for gay people. But you're not going to use the same standard there, are you?
These linguistic tendencies were developed and reinforced in eras where women were barely meant to be seen and certainly not heard.
Okay, and lots of things were developed in eras when bad stuff happened. The first car was built in 1885, an era when women didn't have the right to vote yet. That oppression wasn't the car's or the inventor's fault, though. You can delve into the history of virtually any culture and you will find negative aspects of it. But that doesn't mean we have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Please note, you're not a bad feminist if you're comfortable with using the phrase guys. There are larger issues that we, the feminists, need to combat. Reproductive rights, rape culture, violence against women, LGBTQ rights, and the general reprogramming of most people's minds when it comes to the valuation of women in society.
The reprogramming of people's minds, that's shockingly honest. Not persuading, convincing, or reasoning, but reprogramming. And if you're curious what that reprogramming looks like, well, here you go.
Quick point of privilege. Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Okay.
But when you stop valuing the personhood and visibility of individuals, you make it easier to dehumanize them on a macro scale, minimizing his, her, its, their right to respect and equality.
Okay, then surely you can provide examples of people being dehumanized because of the word guys, right? No, you can't, because it isn't happening.
I'm not offended, per se, if someone lumps me in with the guys. I'm sure there's really no malintent.
You're not offended, per se. You're just going to call people who use the word guys lazy and inconsiderate, accuse them of reinforcing hierarchy and causing dehumanization. Clearly, you're not offended.
I just want you to know that you're one small step away from making a more conscious effort to dismantle the patriarchy. Don't believe me?
Nope.
Try walking into a room full of cisgender heterosexual men and triumphantly announce, "Hey gals, okay girls, thanks sis." I'm sure within 10 minutes, if not seconds, at least one person will correct you.
Yes, because those words aren't currently used in a gender-neutral context. Unlike the word guys, which evolved into a gender-neutral phrase, the words in your examples haven't gone through that evolution. Now, it's possible that gals, girls, and cis will eventually become gender-neutral. After all, there was a point in time when male and female children were both called girls. But as of right now, that isn't how those words are used.
So what can you do? Substitute one "hey guys" with a simple "good morning everyone." Hi y'all. Folks, everybody, scholars, team if you're at work, campers if you're in the forest, bayhive because it's always appropriate. You can also just find ways to insert people's names and address everyone present.
You could do that. Or we could keep using a simple but functional word which you've yet to prove harms anyone.
And when in doubt, say nothing at all. I challenge you to take an extra 0.5 seconds to think about what comes out of your mouth before you say it.
Well, obviously you didn't take your own advice, because if you did, your video would not exist. And for the record, people already do think about what comes out of their mouth. The way you talk to your grandparents will differ from the way you talk to your friends. The way you talk to your boss will differ from the way you talk to your significant other. It's not that people don't think about what they say, it's that most of them aren't after the approval of language police.
You can say that all of this is silly or too PC, but there are always larger societal implications of language, the way we use it and weaponize it.
Well, whenever you're ready, feel free to back up your argument. We're still waiting. Because until you provide evidence that using the word guys to refer to everyone hurts people, nobody has any reason to believe or follow what you're saying.
Face it, the things we do and say matter.
Nope. Prefacing your claim with "face it" doesn't make it true. You can do that with any bullshit statement. Show us the study, show us the data, because all you've given us so far are your feelings.
So if you do nothing else, repeat after me. I am powerful.
Well, I'm not sure in what aspect you're powerful, but it certainly isn't in persuasion, because, as we showed earlier, this video was not well received. Because despite speaking for over 4 minutes straight, she never supported her main argument. But I guess I shouldn't be too shocked. It's a video from NowThis after all, a media company with a record of peddling misinformation. You know, Feluca, seeing how you're a big fan of history, how about we look into the history of your employer? NowThis News was founded in 2012 by 2 men. Kenneth Lair, the co-founder and former chairman of Huffington Post, and Eric Hippo, the former CEO of Huffington Post. Under their leadership, they seem to have no issue with giving an outlet for anti-vaxxers to push their propaganda. During the 2009 swine flu epidemic, which killed as many as 575,000 people, they allowed a man who now writes for Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop to tell readers not to get a vaccine, but rather eat lots of garlic. And while one would hope that Lair and Hippo would demand more rigor with their new organization, integrity doesn't appear to be something they value. So tell me, Feluca, with your elevated knowledge of NowThis and the men behind it, will you resign from your position as a NowThis producer? Or will you continue to reinforce an organization with a record of spreading false info? You can say I'm being silly or too PC, but there are always consequences to who we support. I challenge you to show us how powerful you really are and stop working with a fake news company.